without further ado, let's crack into this next session. It's all about creative effectiveness in practice. And this first session is about Reckitt's business case for more inclusive marketing, not less. So please welcome Claire and Efrain to the stage.
Yeah, weird.
It's my big face. Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today for this session on inclusive marketing. Maybe you're here because it's something that you already kind of believe in and know about. Maybe it's something that you need a bit of convincing on, or maybe it's something that you want to get a bit of ammo to take back to convince someone else in your organisation. Or maybe it was just the closest place after lunch that you could get a seat. But whatever reason you're here for, you're all very, very welcome. And whatever reason you're here for, I'm sure you're all really aware that we are living in a time... Ooh.
You're going.
Oh, it's moving here and not here. I'm sure you're very aware that we're living in really turbulent times. We're in this post-progressive era, and we are all navigating through a huge amount of change, and with that comes a huge amount of challenge. It can seem that there is so much that divides us. And so as a brand, as a marketing leader, it might seem that the obvious choice, even the sensible choice, is to retreat and stay silent. And we're here to say, don't do that. Don't retreat, don't backtrack, don't sunset. Because, there's a lot of risk involved if you do that. You only have to look at Target recently, who lost about $10 billion of their market value when they retreated on their inclusion goals. They got a 9% drop in footfall. I think they also got gifted with a lawsuit from their shareholders. So that's not a place that we want to be in. Because consumers will boycott you if you don't stand by your values, if they don't think that you align with them. That's kind of good news, really, because amongst all of this retreating, amongst that persistence, we are seeing that progressive values do prevail. And so learning how to navigate this era as a brand is really, really important. So leading with impact and standing by your convictions to create campaigns and products and full brands that serve all and diverse audiences is really, really important, and that's going to bring you growth. And that's really what we want to talk about today. Not the risk, but the opportunity. Because inclusion is an undeniable element of effectiveness and growth. Now, of course, I'd say that. I work for an inclusive marketing consultancy. But it's not just about what we see every day with our clients and with the results that we see them getting. The fact is that, and the irony, that in these turbulent times, we're actually seeing more and more evidence growing to build that business case for inclusive marketing. So from the Unstereotype Alliance, they did a huge, really robust study last year, the Inclusion Equals Income study, that showed a 16% sales increase and 54% greater pricing power for more inclusive brands. And Ipsos Mori also have fantastic research showing how inclusive marketing is driving brand equity, is driving share gain, and is driving sales. Now, at Creative Equals, we've also been doing some of our own research into that. So our analysis showed from the Cannes Lion winners from last year, we looked at all of the winners and finalists and found that 60% of those had inclusion as a core element of their campaigns. So breaking that down, we're talking about age, race, gender, LGBTQIA+, accessibility, disability, socio-economic themes, really being at the heart of the award-winning work. We also did a lot of analysis on the Effie winners. And again, we saw that 69% of the winners and finalists had inclusion embedded into their campaigns. So really, really inclusive marketing playing a pivotal role in effective marketing. So that's just to give you a really quick little taster in this short session that we've got together today. And what I'm really thrilled to do now is to hand over to my wonderful client, Efrain, who's going to take you through a deeper dive case study from one of the Effie award-winning brands from their portfolio to really kind of help to make that business case for more inclusive marketing. So over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Claire. So I'm going to talk to you about see my pain. If you were here at this event some years ago, I was on the stage showing the same work, and you might be like, damn, we saw that already. I'm gonna show you the results, because when I first came here, we just showed you the work that we were launching. We're gonna talk about the situation and then the results, as we can also see the work, if my clicker will work. There we go. So Nurofen is one of the core brands at Reckitt. We're a pain brand, if you don't know us, over the counter. And over the course of the last several years, Nurofen had been facing some significant headwinds from declining sales, cost of living crisis as a name brand in a category where there are rampant generics. And we were being outspent by competitors. We also had a little rough time in COVID where there was some misinformation around the molecule our product is based off of, making it worse, which was not true, is not true, and we had a bit of those headwinds to face all at the same time. And what's interesting as the leader of the category is like we also created our own problem. The category is really about efficacy, fast, speed, length of the solution, something that we excelled at, and we're really driving that category norm. But it created a bit of a sea of sameness, as you can see on the wall behind me. It's all kind of wallpaper at the end of the day in the category. But it's, as Claire was saying, marketing is about knowing your consumer, and every day the world is becoming more and more diverse, so you as a marketeer need to understand more and more lived experiences as it relates to your category and how people move through it. There was a bit of a, the slides are haunted, actually. No? Can I get some help from the back? I'm not trying to play the video, I'm trying to go back 2 slides. Okay, well, we'll hold here while we wait for the while we wait for that. Can I go to the next slide, please? Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's going crazy.
Anyways, while we'll hold here on the video and we'll hold you in suspense. But through our understanding and looking at the category, right, as a leader, we really needed to look at it differently. And we had to shift from that sea of sameness into something that was meaningful. So the way we like to talk about it is we went from pills to people. Specifically, when we thought about the pain category, there was a bit of a health crisis that was happening in front of our eyes that no one was really addressing. More than 1 in 2 women, actually, were expressing that their pain was being dismissed from their healthcare professionals, from their GPs, but also their friends and family and partners. They were hearing lots of dismissals that we saw really quickly on some of those mocked up products around, that's just what it's like to be a woman. Or maybe you're stressed. Or that's, age. All of these dismissals, women were coming forward and talking to us about. When I was going in to talk about my pain, I was being told I was being overly dramatic, or it was stress related, or why don't I go take a nap? And these are really real stories that women are talking about. But from a category leader perspective, we can also see women's physiology presents more pain types than men's, and they are also experiencing pain more frequently. But they were undertreating themselves in the category, so we needed to do something. And so that's why we shift from pills to people. So if we can play the video, please.
I didn't want to get up, I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to... Sorry.
This pain was like you were being tortured.
Over 50 years of living with pain.
To just put up and, carry on, which at the time I couldn't.
My friends sort of got on with their lives and thought, Natasha will be okay.
I was told it was just wear and tear. That was it, wear and tear.
Why don't you go to bed then if you're in pain?
Well, maybe it's just stress.
You start to believe when they say that there's nothing medically wrong.
Yeah, nothing wrong with you. It's like this energy of dismissal, like...
I think if I'd have been told your pain's real, it'd have saved my mental health.
I don't think for 1 minute, if a man was sitting in my position, they would say, you're just being emotional, Mr. Smith.
That was like an ongoing thing. You're the female that doesn't really know what you're talking about, kind of.
No one was listening. They just looked at me and assumed I was an overly dramatic woman.
Nurofen is committed to help close the gender pain gap with new research and more training for doctors and pharmacists. We hear you, we support you, we see your pain.
So that was our main piece of film to bring awareness to what has been women's experience this whole time. And as the leader of a pain product, we wanted to do something about it. But it's more about, it's not just about talking about the solution, right? There are so many awareness driving campaigns that are like, look at this problem over here. Aren't you happy we gave you awareness? And then that's it. For us, it was more about playing a role in the ecosystem that is dismissing people's pain. And so what you see here on screen is we developed a really simple tool because pain is very individualized and can be very difficult for people to communicate what they're experiencing, how it impacts their life. So alongside with our comms that we showed, we distributed this pain pass in 2,300 GP surgeries and pharmacists all over the country and pharmacies all over the country just to help people have clear communication with their GP on pain. And we continued to source stories from our community, GPs as well as our women, and we brought them together to talk about that because when we first started this, most GPs and pharmacists were telling us, what do you mean there's a bias in my office? I am data-based, I am science-based. There is no bias affecting how I work with my patients. Yet more than half of women are like, I'm feeling dismissed. There's a bias here. So we brought them together to really bring this aware, and we surveyed GPs again, and now a majority of GPs are acknowledging there is a bias that is present in that room, and we need to do something about it. So I mentioned to you we were here a couple of years ago to show the comms, and we're now able to show results. So we've had enough time in market and activation across all of the different streams that you've seen and I've talked about. We've seen great equity lifts in terms of top of mind awareness, thinking about our brand, seeing our brand as relevant, which is really important when we're fighting against generics who offer a very similar proposition, but at a much cheaper cost. So we needed to give people a reason. And it's also commercially viable. This campaign has been very successful for us in driving a really, really strong ROI. So to kind of Claire's point, inclusion is a way of driving effectiveness, right? It's about knowing your consumer and being consumer centric. And picking up the rocks and the logs in your category and seeing who's being left behind. Also, importantly to note, we're seeing women also see a decrease in their experience of dismissal. So 7% doesn't feel like a huge number as to marketeers, right? We want double digits in everything. But for us, this is a really positive movement where women are feeling more heard in their experiences with HCPs and GPs and not having their pain dismissed. So it's something we're very proud of commercially, but it's also having a positive impact in a more broader context.
Thanks so much for taking us through that. And I think it's really great to hear that kind of longer term story of it as well, being able to come back to this room, to this event, to kind of show the results and the impact of what's happened. If you've liked what you've heard today, if you're interested to hear more about inclusive marketing, we've got an event coming up on the 15th of May, which you're very, very welcome to come to. Give me a shout if you're interested. You can find me on LinkedIn or scan that QR code if you can from here. And yeah, I'll be around if anyone's got any questions and things afterwards. So thanks very much.